So much energy in the room. No, the coffee didn't have Kahlua in it. I'm just feeling really happy to be in your presence. I wish we had another hour because I would love to hear everyone's story. There's just so much energy for all of you in the audience who are joining us live. If you could feel it, yeah, it's a wonderful feeling today. My name is Norma Lucero. I'm with the Small Business Administration. I'm the Economic Development Specialist. And you're going to hear from an amazing group of panelists, but a couple housekeeping things, the standard. I vote silence. Our bathrooms are located right out through the doors, and Melanie just informed me there's a code, and that code is 0911. So if you forget, just poke at Melanie because I will probably forget. In addition, we also have some water beverages over here. I hope everyone was able to grab lunch. If not, there's plenty. You can get some to go. We do have some samples from Elevated Oats as well. And anyways, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to hand over the mic to Melanie, our co-host from the 49th Angel Fund.
Thank you very much, Norma. It's such a pleasure to have a full room. For those of you that are on the live stream, you can't see them at this moment, but there are many people that are around the screen. We're thrilled to have this event live streamed. Thank you to CoWork for hosting this fantastic event and letting us use this space and move things around to accommodate this panel. And most importantly, thank you for the Fireside, because it will be a real fireside chat, which we're very excited about. Also, thank you to ACDA and their staff for sponsoring a delicious lunch that was catered by Midnight Sun Cafe locally in Anchorage. So big round of applause for our sponsors. As Nora mentioned, I run the 49th State Angel Fund, which is an early stage venture capital fund investing in Alaskan companies. And as part of Women's History Month, we are very excited to feature 3 fantastic entrepreneurs in our great state. And we will reserve 10 minutes at the end of the event for audience Q&A. So do please start thinking about what those questions might be. And with that, we'll turn it over to our 2 opening remark speakers. Give a big round of applause for our first one, Steve.
Hi, my name is Steve Brown. Excuse me. I'm the director of the Small Business Development, or the Small Business Administration here in Alaska. I've got a great team up here, and thank you, Melanie and Norma, for putting this together. Very, very proud of our team and the work that we do. What our mission is to go out and help entrepreneurs take their ideas from conception through development and growth and expansion, and especially this last couple of years through recovery. And any time through that life cycle of that entrepreneur's business, help them find the resources that they need, whether through capital or coaching with a really strong partner in the small business development centers across the state. And I just wanted to share a couple of really important things that have happened within the SBA. One of those this last week. For those of you that work with the federal government within one of our programs called the 8A program, we have certain industries that are allowed to function within that program. Well, our women-owned small businesses have had a little over 400 industry codes that they can work in within federal contracting. And this last week, we were able to increase that by about 70%. We now have over 700 NACE codes that are now allowable and recognized within the SBA for federal contracting. It's a huge, huge advance. I think it's also important to know that over the last several years that employment under women-owned businesses has increased 8%. 8% may not sound like a lot, but including all other segments of the market was only 1.8. And so I think that's really significant. Another really important thing that I would like to share is that 2 years ago, federal contracting in that sector, we had over 330,000 federal contracts go to women's small businesses, women-owned businesses. And the last thing I want to share is that we are working very diligently right now to establish a women-owned small business center here in Alaska rather than having to go outside of the state for support. We have a grant opportunity that's out there right now through application, and we're hoping that that winds down here in the next few weeks and that we'll be able to come up with a really solid solution with that. And so with that, thank you for being here. It's great to see your faces. It's great to be together in support of something so very important. Thank you very much. And the first lady.
Well, thank you. Hi, my name is Deb Bronson. I'd like to welcome everyone I'd like to thank the 49th State Street Angel Fund and the SBA for hosting this. Thank you for all you entrepreneurs who are amazing. I'd also like to thank, as she did, the ACDA for sponsoring this lunch and the really good food with the Midnight Sun Cafe. Y'all need to check it out those online who aren't able to eat our good food. So to Christina, Lacey, and Jasmin, thank you for everything that you do in our community as entrepreneurs and business owners. We're here today to talk about how to inspire women to become business owners and how we can make our city a welcoming place for women who want to be their own boss. There are an encouraging number of female business owners, as we just heard, in our community, but we know there's room for improvement. My husband, the mayor, has made it a priority to empower women in his administration. His chief of staff is a female, as are his municipal and deputy municipal managers, and much of his staff are also women as well. We know that most businesses fail within the first 3 years, and the last couple years of COVID has not helped. Thankfully, we're turning the corner, and we're hopefully coming back on the path of growth to our city. I know that some of the hurdles you encounter and run into to grow your own businesses. As an accountant myself, I understand what it takes to start and maintain businesses, but entrepreneur, I am not. You guys, you are the entrepreneurs, and you are simply amazing. As women, we have a lot of things going on, and in addition to you all dealing with life in general, you also have that ability to find that niche and know that the businesses that you want to run will be a welcome and a positive addition to our community. You have found a way to have the courage to not listen to all the voices who are talking at you, but to go with your gut and to achieve your dream. I am encouraged by the terrific panel that's assembled here today, and I look forward to this discussion. Government should be here to support all the businesses so that you could advance your dreams and not get in the way. So let's have a good time with the panel.
Thank you, First Lady. Great comments, and I can't echo them enough. So thank you for that. All right. Well, we're going to get started, but before we do, that turkey sandwich is probably starting to settle in a little bit. So let's just have some fun for a minute or two. I'm just going to shoot out some questions and raise your hands. Who here in the audience is a business owner? Okay. So there we go. Second question. This was Melanie's idea. In the last month, who has lost their keys? Hey, see, I told you there would be people in the audience. And last question. Actually, it's not going to be a question. Everyone stand up. I know the sandwiches. And just say hello to the person to the right and the left, your name and your business. All right.
I know. Hi, I'm Megan. I'm your Oats. Thank you. What's your name? Ariana. Nice to meet you.
Excellent, excellent. We are going to have time in our agenda at the end for a little mingling and networking, and so I just wanted to make sure that you stuck around for that, because now that you've got a little bit of introduction to each other, you're probably like, oh, I got to talk to her a little bit more of him, right? So yeah. With that being said, to all our audience out in virtual world, let's wave at them since they can't really meet us. But I'm going to turn the mic over to Melanie now. We're going to get started with our panelist. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Norma. Yes, Norma, please take a seat next to me. The awkwardness of being in an in-person event again, we forget all the different pieces of it. Well, first of all, let's start by giving our panelists a big round of applause for being here today and for helping us celebrate Women's History Month. Let's hear who are you, what are your businesses, and one fun fact.
My name is Christina Eneix. I own a company called Green Earth Landworks. I'm a lifelong Alaskan, and an interesting fact is I also have horse ranch. Oops. There you go.
My name, that's okay. Yeah. Okay. My name is Jasmin Smith, and I am here as an owner of Baby Vend LLC, also lifelong Alaskan. And my interesting fact is I'll do two. I have 7-year-old twins, and I went to college at Sheldon Jackson in Sitka.
I'm Lacey Ernandes. I'm co-founder of Elevated Oats, a gourmet granola company here in Alaska. And my fun fact is that I don't actually live here. I work here, but I live in North Carolina. So I'm here on occasion.
Just goes to show the impact and the widespread that Alaskans might have across our country and probably globe too. So given that this is Women's History Month and we are all here to celebrate our successes and come together as a community, what does Women's History Month mean to each of you? In whichever order.
I guess it's something that you don't really think about until the month comes around. It kind of gives you an opportunity to reflect and what it means. And I guess what it means to me is I'm really glad to see the changes in the roles of women in our country because we are great project managers. We've been managing households and children for years. So it's nice to see the evolution of, where my grandma was as a, 10 children at home. And to me, running a construction crew and doing things that are, kind of out of the realm of what somebody might expect when they meet me. They're like, oh, you do that? And I'm like, yeah, I have loaders and dozers. And I just really enjoy doing something different and not being pigeonholed because I'm a woman or I should stay home and I should raise children or, those things are fine too. It's just the choices that we have are bigger. And so I guess that's what I would reflect on.
So this month reminds me to stay focused on what I'm working on and what's at stake. So when you think about Women's History Month, you think about people who came first and what they went through for us to be where we are today. And I remind myself that history isn't done, it's still happening. So I try to be intentional with what I do now and how I carry myself and what I focus on for me and my kids and my family, because I recognize it doesn't feel like history right now, but in the future, what I'm doing today is going to be someone else's history that they look back on. So I just want to make sure I do my part and I set a good tone and a bar for other women, especially women of color. So I'm always mindful of that in the work that I do today and just kind of finding that inspiration from my mom and my aunts and my grandmas, and then, trying to be an inspiration for my daughter and then for my son so he knows how to treat a good woman one day when he becomes of age.
Okay. Women's History Month to me, I like to look back and express gratitude for all the women that came before me. But to be honest with you, I have a hard time getting real inspired by it because to me, it's a reminder of the work that we have to do still. The fact that we have a month reminds me that, while we have more rights, we still have work to do in that area.
That is very true. And I'm very grateful to the three of you and many of you in this room here today for trailblazing and really setting that precedent and setting that tone for all the younger generations as well. So big kudos to the three of you. Jumping off of that, what have been your journeys and some of those obstacles and lessons learned that might inspire folks on the live stream and folks in this room?
We're just gonna keep going first. Okay.
Is it on? Okay. That's a loaded question. That's a lot.
Jumping right into
Yeah,
it. We don't have so much
so-
time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I tell everybody all the time, there hasn't been a formula for entrepreneurship in my journey. I own the fact that I have messed up so many times. I joke that I have a PhD in mess ups, and I just keep going. So for me, it has been, especially in terms of Baby Vend, I tell people all the time, I came from a service business background, being a business consultant and an event planner. And then to jump from doing that to having a business with so many moving parts, from building the machine, moving the machine, programming the machine, designing the machine, placing the machine, training people to run the machine, put stuff in the machine, package the products for the machine, advertise the machine, was an extreme jump, and then doing that as a single mom, and my kids are like 1 and 2, and having another business and teaching at UAA and bringing my kids to work because I didn't have a babysitter. It was just like probably crazy. And I think the number one thing that I could say in that journey of just like, there was no roadmap. So I always just told myself, it's not really about how I get there. It's just me getting there and knowing what the path to get there is going to change and be super crazy and hard, but I'm just going to zigzag and weave my way to wherever we're supposed to go. So my honest, story and thing that I always share with people on the journey is just having to find my worth in what I was trying to do and having to counter a lot of negative talk in terms of my business. If I had listened to the feedback I got, I wouldn't have even done it because I was literally told it was a stupid idea and I shouldn't do it. And vending machines were for candy and food. So had I listened to that, I wouldn't even have Baby Vend and be able to be in 12 states and do these things with my kids because I would have listened to that. So I think for me, it's just been owning my journey and owning, the path to get where I have to go and lack thereof, and then just staying true to what I know I need to do and just coming to expect that not everybody is designed for my journey, but like they always say, not everybody knows your calling. It wasn't a conference call, so that's okay.
Great. So the most difficult thing, well, there's been a lot of difficult things. I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, you're pivoting, you're doing all the jobs, you're trying to figure out your focus. And I think the thing that I've learned the most is to be open to change. Because if you're not open to change, or if you're too rigid, or you spend a lot of time on one thing, you're like, well, I can't change my path, but maybe you're not getting the results you need, you have to pivot. And being able to do that is really important because you get stuck in a way. And I mean, I started out as a small landscaping company, building fences for neighbors. And now I do demolition for the NOAA radar site and take down satellites and buildings and do HVAC. And so I just had to find opportunities, figure out where they worked for me. And you kind of have to be obsessed for a while, and really burn the candle. And you can't maintain that pace. You have to know when to come back. But if you're not obsessed, you're just not going to make the progress that you need. So I guess the thing that I've learned, or the biggest challenge, is what to be obsessed about, when to be obsessed about it, and then when to pull back and realize and refocus. And that's one of the things that I love about my industry, is that my summers are so packed that I just, autopilot working. And in the winters, I can sit back and be like, okay, did I like that? Do I want to do that again? And then I can focus on bigger picture items. And I think people need to be able to do that. It's kind of hard when you're working every day on the same thing, but step back and just take a month or week or whatever you can. Just be like, do I like this? And it's a hard thing to do because you don't give yourself the time. So.
That was wonderful too. I'm trying to think of what like the biggest challenge has been, and honestly, I think it's in your own head. I've been told no a lot, but I've been told no a lot by myself as well. And if it weren't for Megan, I probably wouldn't be here today. She jumped off this cliff and said, "I'm going to be an entrepreneur and make granola." And I said, "I'm going to do all your packaging." And here we are. So she said yes. A lot of people told me no, didn't want to listen to my ideas. And now I have a business partner that does listen to my ideas, even though I don't want to believe that. And so that's the challenge is, changing your experience that you've experienced into what you're actually experiencing in reality now.
Whew, so many good words of wisdom. My gosh, good thing this is being recorded so I can rewatch it afterwards and take notes. And speaking of being, to some extent, surrounding yourself with people who have been those allies that have helped you grow. You don't need to name them specifically, but what type of support have you received, either expected or unexpected, so that when, for folks that are listening, they're feeling lonely, might spur some ideas of who to turn to?
Well, I don't live here, so I can honestly say that this community, I virtually live here, but this community has been amazing. I have been a part of cohorts online and been able to build and grow our business from halfway across the country. I kind of forgot the question, I'm sorry.
Expected and unexpected support systems.
And that's very unexpected for me because I grew up in not a community. My family was not involved. They're not entrepreneurs. Then I joined the military, which is a different type of community. And when I got out, my community was stripped from me. And I found it in all of you, and I may cry now, so bye.
So like, who's our community, or who do we get our inspiration from?
Yes, who supports you when you're feeling alone?
Yeah, I think like with me, a big one is my family. I've been, like I said, Alaska my whole life. My whole family is Southern, and that's where we're from. So, when I first started any of my companies, my first workers are always my family. Like even right now, if you go to my office, my dad is at the front desk. So if you have a potentially inappropriate conversation, or you're trying to like mother your kids or father your kids, it's my dad, and like my mom and my kids. So my family literally, are the ones that like worked with me and for me. They restocked vending machines. They were packaging diapers. My mom's best friend, was helping me mail payments. So like that's always my day ones. And then of course I have like friends and stuff that I grew up with that are still my friends to this day. I think the other part of it too was understanding as my business changed and my journey changed, my circle had to change too. So I had some friends and people that I love, but when I realized they either didn't want to come or they couldn't come, or there was a toxic reason, and I had to be okay finding a new circle and finding a new path. And that allowed me to get out of my comfort zone. And I have like friends and allies and people that I was like, I didn't even know you knew who I was, or I didn't expect to see you here, but you're here. And I think that has been one of the biggest blessings for me, is just opening my eyes to what support looks like and understanding that it doesn't have to be the same thing, and it doesn't always come from where you expect it.
It's very true. My family too. So besides family and community in general, I've always had resources, with the SBA. Norma has always been a good resource. It's the first name that came to mind, actually, from the DOT days. So Norma would be one person that I would go to, and often got really good sage advice. And so I would tell people that are in business or trying to grow is look around the community with the development centers. And I went to the YWCA and learned QuickBooks, when I was 20. So there's opportunities, there's places you can meet. And then I think mentorship is really important. You have to find mentors in your areas. And I came from a family of entrepreneurs, so I had that support, but my dad didn't do federal contracting. So I went out and found somebody that was an engineer that did federal contracting, and he was my mentor, and he showed me how to find bid tabs and how to bid jobs and how to look for things that I didn't know about. And I spent a whole year bidding on work that I never submitted because I wanted to see how my price ended up with the bid tabulations that are public records. So you become an expert in research, and so I would find people in those areas that could help me. The other things that I think, are important is like your banker. You need to have a relationship with the bank. You need to have a relationship with your bonding agent. You need to have a good CPA that's going to look at your books and tell you how to save 20 grand on taxes, because you're talking on a regular basis about what you're doing. So you don't have those relationships that can be the network, of holding your business up. That's one side that needs to be there. So you can't be afraid of that. I used to hate talking to a bonding agent. I felt like a kid going to the principal's office and was going to get scolded about how I spend money and things like that. And once I found somebody that I could deal with, and he showed me what they look for in ratios, it clicked. I'm like, okay, I could do this. I could make this happen. And now my bonding went from like begging for 500,000 to get 10 million, and I could do that now. And also the bank, because a while ago, and this will always happen, with COVID and everything, it's difficult times. You don't have a good relationship with your bank, you're not going to get very far. When you get that project that you want to do and you need the extra capital, unless they know you and you've had a history, it's going to be hard to get that money. So things like that, business-wise, are really important. And then the other side of that is your emotional support group and your emotional intelligence levels and how you're going to deal with adversity and how you're going to deal with people not being nice to you and not getting things done when you work really hard. And so stepping back and looking at, like you said, your circle, who you surround yourself with, keeping positive energy, being nice to yourself, you know what I mean? Because I think, like you touched on, it's easy to be hard on you. And I actually really believe that most people can do most things except for they stand in their own way and they don't even see that. I'm like, you are in your own way. So getting out of your own way, having friends that are going to support what you're doing, letting go of, there's a saying, addition by subtraction. It's a baseball saying because my husband's a coach, and but sometimes your team doesn't get better by adding; it gets better by deleting. So that's my advice.
I'd forgotten what the question. Oh, support, right? Like nodding along. My gosh, such words of inspiration. Oh, and the three of you have come such a long way in your businesses, and they're all at different stages of growth and doing different things. I mean, Jasmin, you have multiple businesses at this point, and different things going on. I would love so that this audience, both virtual and in person, can celebrate you and share the word about your own businesses. I would love the three of you to brag about what you have accomplished a little bit, and that way we can just continue to talk about it. So let's hear where that support system brought you up.
Okay, so like I said, we started as a landscaping company, working, on my neighbor's fence, and by the time we were finishing college, we had 50 employees. And I had all these goals, and I was like, okay, when I'm 30, I'm going to have all this stuff done. And I pretty much got there, and I wasn't really happy. I realized I was like, oh, I don't want all this. So I pivoted, and we got into different work areas, and I realized that I really love the art of business and contracting and finding opportunities. So we turned into federal government, mainly because of the secure revenue stream with the municipality having, money problems and the decline, 2008-9 when we weren't doing so good as a whole. I thought, okay, well, where can I go? Where can I pivot? And where's the revenue stream is going to be more secure. So I think for me, figuring that out was really important because it led to greater successes. And then I found mentors that I needed to get to that next level. So I would say just being able to pivot and grow my business from, something that people would ask me like, how's your husband's lawn business? And I'm like, you mean our demolition HVAC company? That, you know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm proud of, basically. And I think besides the relationships that I've made, we have great employees. We have amazing people that are around us, and we have a good culture. And that's what I like, because I know when I walk into a room and I have a team of people, I enjoy it. You know.
So I wanted to interject real quick because I actually met Christina while I worked in a different agency at the state of Alaska DOT, and she's a young woman entrepreneur with this amazing energy. But what what I always remember was, how did you start, or what made you want to start in this industry, right? And so her parents' neighbors hired a landscaper, and they got $20,000 worth of lawn work. And she said, somebody pays $20,000 for dirt and rocks? And so that is what prompted her to I need to explore this industry a little bit more. And she actually volunteered at a local, was it one of the nurseries here in town where you learned about trees?
Oh, yeah.
See, she would have forgot.
It was
That's how
actually a
successful
mentor.
she is now.
No, it was Peggy from
Right.
Bush Landscaping. She taught me stuff.
Right.
I had a
And-
mentor.
Exactly. So I always remember that because, sometimes we have our mindsets that, I'm going to open a bakery, I'm going to open a but then something happens that pivots that mindset. And it's like, and that's exactly what she did. Just like Jasmin, the first time I met her, she probably doesn't remember, but she was at the Denina Center for a business expo, and you had tape on her glasses, and
Snap them in half.
yeah, and her printer, I think, ran out of color, and so her flyers were crooked, and I'm like, ooh, and you're promoting yourself as a business consultant? Yikes. Let me take my sister to the side, see what I can do to help her out. But, regardless of those stories that I remember, and we're going 12 years with Christina, and probably at least 8, somewhere around there. And, for me, on this side of the house, being a resource, as Christina mentioned, to an agency, even at the SBA, this is the gratification and the stories that I remember that keep me passionate about what I do. And to see your growth and success, I just smile. Christina just told me, oh, did I tell you I just bought some buildings? I'm like, of course you didn't, but I'm not surprised. But we're going to talk about that. Anyways, I just wanted to interject that. Thank you.
It's so nice to have other people bragging about you too. But let's keep the bragging, panelists.
Norma has a really good memory. I forgot that. But yeah, so I don't know. If I think about my Baby Vend and probably the business boutique, which is the pre-Baby Vend world where we do the consulting and the training. I think the thing that I'm most proud of, probably on the business boutique side, is just how many businesses we've been able to help, and community members we've been able to help. So I tell people all the time, we're still on that side, we're still literally inside of doing, ARPA programming. And we literally got 25,000 applications from people in need of just basic assistance with food and supplies for their kids and gas. And we literally somehow deployed gift cards and helped to 9,000 families before Christmas. So we were joking. It felt like we were little elves dropping off gift cards because the mail was too slow. So that's kind of stuff for us, those kind of programs just keep me grounded and it reminds me of helping the community. So we're doing it again, helping, more people and trying to just keep that going. So that's a big thing for me on the business boutique side, is being able to help community. And then when other businesses come and say that we help them get started, or they have a storefront, or we met them where they were because, they were in a tough place. And I'm like, well, trust me, I get it. That's where I started. So no judgment over here. And then just in the Baby Vend world, the thing that I'm really proud of is I tell people, I had never had a vending machine company. I didn't know really how to use vending machines aside from the bare basics. So I went into it literally brand new, and to be able to go from just saving up enough money for that first vending machine, and I just put it in my garage, and I would just practice vending in the evening times. I would just load it up and plug it in, and I joke that the kids learned how to use it first. They were putting Chuck E. Cheese tokens and stuff in there and vending things out of the machine. So to be able to say we went from one basic machine in the garage to being in 12 states, from coast to coast, and that makes me really proud. So, we're in 12 states now, and then we're in 27 cities, and then we're working on a machine in South Africa, and working on a machine in Rwanda, working on a machine in Belize, and then in a mall in Edmonton in Canada. So that makes me really happy to be able to say not only do we have machines in a lot of places, but then some of those locations have their own owners, and we can help them start their own vending machine companies too, and now not only did we do that, but we took what we learned, and I wrote a book, Vend University, to teach other people how to do it themselves. I really feel like there's not competition, there's enough business for everybody. So if we learn something and we know something, I think what makes our vending company different that people always say is like, we don't mind sharing and telling someone else what it is, because, we're not the exact same person. So even if I tell you half my trade secrets, we're not the same person. So we're not going to do the exact same thing. So what is it to us to be able to help? And I think the last thing that I'm working on that is over in Mountain View is we had a Moja co-working over there in a co-working space, but a focus more so on like culture, ESL community. And I'm a really big believer that business and culture do mix. So a lot of times in Western business, you're told business and culture is separate. You got to check your personal stuff at the door. And there's this cookie cutter view of what business is. But I've learned as I've gotten older that that's not necessarily true, because who you are and where you're from and what you've been through and experienced and you've seen impacts how you handle business. It impacts how you do business, and it impacts how you run your business. So I have learned to unlearn what I thought I was taught about business and adopt the thought process of meeting people where they are and having people understand that your personal self is important. Because if I was raised a certain way and I see things a certain way and I have a certain lens, I can't help but bring that into business. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. So finding grassroots ways and spaces to say, you might not have the nice business suit. You might have broken glasses because your kid snapped them in half and you wore them down because they're still Gucci, right? And I'm proud of that, right? But that's okay. You have to meet people where they are, and then the ones that are ready will rise to the occasion and they'll go to wherever their destination is supposed to be. And then some people aren't ready, and that's okay. So those are the things that I am really proud of, and I want to continue fostering in my, Baby Vend family hat, Emoja space creation hat, and business boutique, community empowering hat.
That's so impressive. For real. Like, I hope Elevated Oats is in other countries one day.
Oh, it will be. Given
hope so.
you and Megan, I believe it. If anyone's going to do it,
Thank you.
at the very least, you'll have them in Baby Vend machines, perhaps.
That would be awesome. Let's talk that later, Jasmin. Okay, so Megan started this company in July, I think, of 2019, or late July, early August, and then 2 weeks later, I sent her an Instagram post like, hey, you need some package labels there, and then the story begins. So we're entering year 3. And we are.
Why is it doing that? Okay, it's coming in.
All right. And we are still here, and I am really proud of that. I am very proud of what we've accomplished. We have 5 members of our team now, but that is just recent. It has been 3 of us for a while. And with 3 of us, we have changed packaging 3 times last year. And we're in 75 locations throughout Alaska. We won 2021 Veteran Startup of the Year. And we just did our first trade show outside of Alaska. It was Natural Product Expo West. And even though our stuff was not there the first day, I'm really proud that we went as a team. I live halfway across the country, so it's hard to feel like I'm a part of that team when I'm not here most of the time. I'm really proud of the jobs that we're bringing to Alaska. We think of all the time, how can we bring more jobs? Like, can we get oats grown here? How can we put more local product in our granola? I'm proud to try to make Elevated Oats a national brand, so I hope that you guys get to see that in the next 5 to 10 years.
Probably sooner than that, but we'll keep an eye out. You're already in 2 states, so it's starting to expand. Oh, such inspiring women. My gosh. One of the things that some people think about entrepreneurship and like, oh, it's so risky and there's so much that goes into it. And some people are entrepreneurs and some people are not entrepreneurs. For myself, they're entrepreneurs, and I decided to not be an entrepreneur because I've seen their own challenges and Rather, I would prefer to work with entrepreneurs and help them succeed because I've lived it firsthand. What would you say about your risk tolerance, given that you've already made big jumps, all three of you, to grow these businesses from just an idea or just a packaging to, gosh, profitable companies or revenue generating companies?
So I was an air traffic controller before I was an entrepreneur. So I'd say that my risk level is high. I enjoy stress, apparently. And I think Megan does too, because I would have not made a product. I was trying just to be a freelance graphic designer, but she's like, let's make 4 things and then more. And I'm like, okay, please. So yes, I think I'm pretty high risk, lots of rewards.
Yeah, I'd say my risk level is like medium, shielding from my kids so they don't see too much. So I share enough with them so they understand like the realness of what we're doing, but I'm not going to be like, oh, we're going to be, homeless tomorrow so I can get a vending machine. Their grandparents wouldn't let me do that anyway. But yeah, I would say like it's been a lot of risk, a lot of money, and a lot of money and a lot of more so money than hours. Like a lot of time has been committed to it. So I think like as my kids get older and I'm starting to see the benefits of the work, I am now able to assess what I want to risk more. Like I don't like before it was just like I'm just going to go for it because I'm trying to grow my company, and if I miss anything, it could have been the opportunity we needed. But now that we're in a stabler place and we're like profitable and doing good, I'm happy to be able to be like, I don't have to do that as much. Now I can be like, I'm going to turn my phone off today and hang out with my kids, right? Or I'm going to let one of my staff handle the sales stuff, and I don't have to be the one that checks the email. So I think I'm still open to the risk and stuff, but I'm very hyper aware of like, I don't want to like negatively impact my kids and my family, but I want them to see enough of it so they understand what's at stake. So, sometimes if there's something big or intense happening, like I'll tell them, they're like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm stressed. It's stressful. Like, I need you to come pack some of these diapers. Like the lady didn't show up. So, my kids are like, oh, okay, sure, mom. So just being frank with them, like, and some days I'm like, no, we're not going to, Dave and Buster today. We're going to the office because this has to get shipped out. And they get it. So I just try to find like the balance to show them enough, but not make them like resent my entrepreneurship life too.
I don't think I ever had much of an opportunity. I'm pretty sure I'm unemployable. So I always knew I was going to have a business. I just didn't know I did a restaurant at 19 and was going to open a gift shop in Whittier when I was 20. And then I started Green Earth when I was 21. I worked at Nordstrom's for a little bit in high school for the discount.
She did.
Yeah. And I would, risk all my paycheck. So I think I was always open to risk, and my family is entrepreneurs, so they always kind of encouraged me to try things and not to be scared of it. I was never really pushed to get like a traditional job or have that. So I think my risk was high. I mean, definitely would wake up at night sometimes like panicking, like, oh no, the red, we owe all this money. And that kind of, it goes away with experience. I've been doing this for 22 years now. So, what I don't risk now, I did risk before, but what I don't risk now is my happiness. I don't risk that. I don't work with people that bring me no joy. I don't keep employees around who bring me no joy. If the energy is wrong, and even if it's a great job and there's a company like, come do this job with us, if I know it's going to be hard and I know they're disorganized and I know maybe I'll make money, but it'll be so much stress, I don't risk that anymore. So I feel like that's the reward that I get from what I sowed when I was 20 and 30, all the times that I did stuff with people I didn't enjoy and worked through projects that didn't end up very well. I learned. And so I sowed my oats, and now I'm reaping them, and I don't risk my happiness anymore.
That's awesome. Yes, I remember you at that Nordstrom time frame, but you dressed well. When Melanie and I first got together about this concept, I told her, one of the things that I hear a lot about when I talk to women entrepreneurs is that challenge when someone says no. no, no, no. And so we said, that's it. That is the theme of the fire chat discussion. They said no, look at me now. So when you hear that no, and you fast forward time, look at me now, what would you like to say to that person? You don't have to name them. Yeah, right? To protect the innocent. What is that one no that just got right under your skin and just said, you know what? Watch me now. So,
I won't say her name, but there's probably been a lot of them over the time, so it's just kind of a general person. But I would say that, let me back up a little bit. My friend did a TEDx talk. I haven't got to hear it, but I only heard the premise. And when he said it, it clicked in me, and I was like, oh, this. And it was anti-mentorship. And that was what his speech was. It was here in Anchorage last week. I was sold out. I didn't get to see it. Maybe some of you guys saw it.
That's
Yeah,
great.
I know it would be.
It's going to be online.
Yeah, and when he said anti-mentorship, one particular person came to mind, and I thought, oh man, this is an amazing topic, because you always talk about, the mentors and the people that like you and help you. What about the people that don't? And I have to say a huge thank you to those people, because if they had made, thank you. Because if they had made it easy, I wouldn't have learned about wanton withholding of payment, or construction fraud, or all of these legal terms that I learned. I know a lot about maritime law and DMV regulations. I know so much, and I would have never known if people hadn't made me so angry that it sparked a fire. And I was like, okay, underestimate me and watch out, because I'm going to become an expert in these things. And if I can't, I will find somebody smarter than me, and I'll ask them questions. And looking back, I really appreciate those struggles, because you don't grow so much when it's easy. When it's easy, you become complacent. When people are hard, that's when you read the fine print, stay up late. So that's my story.
Younger self before your entrepreneur journey. So perhaps to inspire those that are thinking about being entrepreneurs.
If you don't like working for other people, you should be an entrepreneur. You get to be the boss and make the decisions, and you are in control. And that's something that it's hard to remember when you're an entrepreneur. That's my advice.
Oh no, if I'm talking to myself how I talk to myself in my head, I'd probably say something along the lines of don't even stress it, sis, it ain't even worth it. And that has a bigger meaning to me in terms of, number one, distractions and things that aren't helping you with your business. Number two, people distractions that aren't helping you with your business and your goals. Number three, any kind of self-doubt. And number four, if you have doubt about something and you don't know if you should do it or not, or if it's worth it or not, kind of having faith in yourself and whatever the decision is, to change. Because to be an entrepreneur, it is a different path. I mean, we have a lot of ecosystems and things like that now, but comparatively, it's still not as big. And sometimes it can feel, a little lonely and you're not sure if you're doing the right thing. So I think I'd say that, yeah, half the time, yeah. Say that to my old self and say, yeah, you're on the right path. You got this. And whatever the other stuff is or the doubt is, it's really not even, it's not worth it. It's a moment in time. And there's a lot of time to fill. So.
I would say that it would be this mantra that I kind of, in my 30s, started saying to myself. So I probably should have done it in my 20s. And it was, give money a place in your life, but don't give it a throne. And I would actually say that to the mirror sometimes, because I was really focused on my net worth and my self-worth being intertwined. So when I was doing great, it was happy. And when I was doing not so great, it was sad. And I realized that that's a terrible place to put your self-worth in. And money is like sand. And I think if you just cup it your hand, you'll just hold it just fine. And when you start squeezing it, it comes out. And so I would say that, just don't do stuff just for money. Do it for the process or what you believe in or whatever. But if you do it just for money, it's unsatisfying. So.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, big round of applause for our panelists and these fantastic words. I'll open it up to the audience and run the mic around. And then if one or all three of you want to address it, we can do that. Who's first? Raise your hand. I'll walk over to you. There we go. All right. Sorry, live stream folks. You'll have to imagine someone asking a question.
So I'd like to know who's your greatest inspiration? And if it was yourself, that's okay too. I'd like to hear that.
Thank you. Greatest inspiration.
My parents, probably both of them, but particularly my dad. He was orphaned and came here as a young person with nothing, and he was a Vietnam vet and an entrepreneur, and he gave me all these opportunities. So I always felt like, and my mom too, very hard worker, but she was an orphan. She's got a great family. And I felt like having that basis of what they gave me and seeing how hard they struggled really made me want to do more, because if they could come from the dirt and be where they are, I should do more. So my parents.
So I have three. So my twins, because literally after I had them, it's like life just kind of reset, and things that mattered before didn't matter anymore, and ways I carried myself before, I didn't want to do that anymore, because I realized I have two little people looking at me every day, as a source of how am I supposed to do this the right way. So everything I do is rooted in really what's best for them, what's going to make them happy, and what's going to set them up to be better than I was with growing up. And then my other one that's like not even really, I don't know Oprah, but I love Oprah. And I always am, like my friends joke, they're like, we're going to call you Oprah of the North. I'm like, I'll take it. And then me and my other friend, we always joke and we like kind of fight over who's going to be Oprah. So some days I'm Oprah and she's Gail. Some days I'm Gail and she's Oprah. And so we just have like this thing. So I would definitely say between my kids and this Oprah Gail made up scenario in my mind that keeps me going.
Okay. I have an anti-mentor and an inspiration. I would say my anti-mentor was actually my parents. They did not motivate me to do much. They actually kind of tore me down a bit. So that was my inspiration to be a better person for my child and the people around me. And also as a child, I was really into Lucille Ball. Because she's a trailblazer, and I really looked to her and her career for like what she did to pave the way.
Amazing. Who else has a question? Please raise your hand. Oh, yes.
How did you promote your business?
Well, currently we are all organic. We do most of our branding, marketing, all of it is online and through either myself or Megan.
Yeah, that's my favorite question. So like, I think the thing that I did to promote my business was first and foremost, I had to understand that advertising and marketing was not the same thing. And I couldn't just jump to like flyers and commercials and all that kind of stuff, not knowing who was going to see them and receive them and make it impactful. So how I promoted my business was I actually took a lot of time to sit down and really ask myself, who is my target customer and where are they and what are they doing and when can I find them? And when I learned how to do that, then my advertising was a lot more successful because it was more organic to my time, like people I was looking for. And the example I give real quick is like we put on an Alaska Hip Hop and R&B Music Awards every year. And the radio station's like, oh, we have the most drivers in the morning. That's drive time. And we put a bunch of money into advertising the awards during drive time. We didn't sell any tickets. So then I had to go sit down and I'm like, well, rappers and hip hop artists aren't up in the morning. So that might be their peak time. That is not my peak time. So having time to like market like that, I think it's really, really important to like know who your target customer is, where they are, and like seeking out opportunities to find them in those organic spaces. And I can say that's helped us a lot.
So because I'm doing mainly government contracting, I needed to find out how the government contracts, how they get work in the areas that I wanted to be in. It started out being a subcontractor to general contractors, and then it moved on to us being the prime contractor. And then that also led to the change of NICS codes and focuses once I understood where and how the projects were getting released. And if you don't know where to look for work or who to partner with, if your component of the overall work isn't subcontracted by itself, you have to make partners. So I'd go to events, meetings. I walked into one that Norma invited me to, and I became an 8A after that because it was the something office that opened. And yeah, so I just kind of networked and then I read and I searched. I was like, where are the projects? Where are they listed? How do you find them? And that, just the same thing like about the bid tabulations. I didn't know that you could go look up and see every single line item that was bid and how much they got it for, so you could check on yourself, So research and PTAC, SBA, that's kind of, yeah.
I want to add something to your question, because as entrepreneurs, sometimes we have to carve out a niche, right? And I'm going to pick on you, Christina, because when I met you, you had a micro organism cooking in the lab in her office that had all these qualities. And so having worked at the department that I did, I said, well, the Department of Transportation has scientists. You should talk to them about this microbial thing that we might be able to use on our hydroseeding and things like that. So she did, and after many discussions and presentations, she actually carved out a niche. So when a DOT project was released, they added that component for the first time down in the Kenai Peninsula, I believe. And so, sometimes you got to think outside the box, take that risk, everything that they talked about, and carve out a niche. You never know. And so I didn't know if they were going to go for it either. I actually didn't know we had scientists at the DOT, but apparently we do. And so again, that networking and understanding your environment, but mostly just taking a risk.
Thank you. And with that, I'm realizing that we are at time. We do have one last closing remark from Jeff at the SBA, and I'm forgetting exactly the title, but very important, Jeff. If you send us off with inspiration.
Yeah, I'm the Jeff that works for Steve. That's my title, deputy director. I can't follow these folks. I can't. And I know we're here to talk about Women's History Month, but these are true inspirational leaders across all boundaries. And I want to close with this. Since your first job, you have been prepaying for consulting services. Don't think about the SBA services as free, because they're not. They're expensive, and you pay for them generously every April 15th. But we need more of you. Anchorage needs more of you. Alaska needs your talents. The U.S. government needs more of you to be engaged, to share your spark, and to help us grow out of this. It's been a rough couple of years, ladies and gentlemen, but things are looking up. And with your talents, with your ability to overcome and adapt, things are going to get really good. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you so much for the city for being here, and the First Lady. And I want to just real quick, if I could get our team to stand up, including you, boss. I want to introduce our SBA folks in the house. We've got Norma Lucera, our Economic Development Specialist, Public Information Officer. For the folks in the back, there's some great-looking people that I'm going to introduce. I've got Ross McCarty. Well, I'm going to start introducing after Ross, great-looking people. I've got Ross McCarty, who's our Business Development Specialist. I've got Randy Miller, our Procurement Technical Assistant Center Specialist. And then I've got Kelly Chang, our Business Opportunity Specialist. We have 10 folks in the state of Alaska committed to helping you start, grow, and expand your businesses. Please give a big round of applause for the folks that put this together and for our panelists. I'm in awe.
Thank you very much for these closing remarks. And thank you all for attending either in person or virtually. I would invite especially all the ladies and gentlemen in this room to come up near the fireplace to take a celebratory picture with our fantastic panelists. Who'll be front and center. And for those that are on the live stream, thank you very much for tuning in and joining us. Thank you.